Ichigo Awakens by Talach, Chapter 22, Confronting Demons. Confronting Demons with Rukia. Night had fallen in the Soul Society. Now would be a time for rest, to slumber in peace for the duties of the next day, but the realm was still in turmoil. An endless search for the remaining Ryoko and the aftermath of Aizen's death still had the entire Serite in turmoil. A good comparison for the storm of emotions in Rukia's heart, the words of Ganju Shiba still ringing in her ears. You're pathetic. Every stinging statement was the tug of a knife in her heart, just a scared girl running from her guilt. Why did she never tell the Shiva clan? They deserved to know the full story, but she left. Was she scared? Is this why she was so willing to accept the punishment of Soul Society? Was letting herself die really so much more difficult than facing the punishment from the Shiva clan? No, it didn't matter anymore. Her fate was sealed the moment Ichigo attacked the head captain. She failed everyone she cared about. There was no saving her now. Ichigo, she muttered, memories of their time together replaying in her head, the way he acted in the face of the overwhelming danger of the Hollows, kindness that he showed her during her time in the living world, the offer that Orihime and Tatsuki left open. Would he even have me? She wondered, thinking back to the thoughts she had the first time she imagined being with Ichigo. She dropped to the floor, tears pouring from her face. Please, just leave me behind, she cried out, feeling despair creep into her heart. Orihime and Isane. The two stared at each other, trying to put up an intimidating front, one to rescue a friend and escape an unjust punishment, while the other is the second in command of the healing squad. Both would rather not fight, but the other is leaving little recourse for that. They soon shifted into their respective fighting stances, one for martial arts and the other for swordplay. Any chances you can let me through? Orihime asked politely with a happy smile, hoping it would work. I don't like fighting too much. Neither do I, Isane replied. It's why I'm a medic, but I can't let you through. She then asked in a similar manner. Please come with me. They kept smiling before they turned serious and charged at each other. Isane swung her blade at Orihime, who swiftly ducked under it to deliver a swift palm strike to her side. The tall woman staggered back a little and brought her blade down in another swing, making Orihime jump back, but was caught by a rope of light. Bakudo 4, Kainawa, Isane chanted, trapping Orihime in her Kido. Surrender, please, she asked again. Kyoten-san Shanshuan, Orihime called out, having her attack destroy her bindings. Thanks, Tsubaki, she said, bringing out all of her fairies. Let's do this. Her spirits started to fly around rapidly, pulling the lieutenant on edge. Erring on the side of caution, she made a forward charge, which was deflected by a barrier. You can't break through my barrier, Isane-san, Orihime said politely, still trying to dissuade the fight. Isane disappeared in a burst of shunpo that Orihime was not expecting. She turned just in time to see her opponent inside her guard, so she did something risky. With one hand, she caught the hilt of the sword and the blade with the other, wincing as the metal cut into her hand. That shocked Isane, who was pulled off balance and elbowed in her chest and forced back with a kick. Then Orihime took the time to realize how bad she hurt herself. Whoa, my hand, she cried in chibi mode with tears gushing out of her eyes. Ah, don't worry, Isane called out. I am medic, she said, taking out a healing in her own while applying a healing kit up. Repairing any major nerve damage, cuts to the bones, she muttered as she let the healer in her take the dominant role. There, just need a few stitches, and I'd advise against catching swords like that ever again. Don't worry, Orihime chirped, the pain already gone. I've got this. Certain cushion, she called out her healing shield and repaired the rest of her damaged hand. I could have fixed it myself, but thanks anyway, she said, happily showing off her fixed hand. Isane could only stare in shock at the display of healing. That was amazing. Then she started gushing over it, grabbing Orihime's hand and examining it all over again. No scarring, completely healed, and so smooth, she said, feeling out Orihime's hand. So soft, so gentle. You're a natural healer. Whatever you did made it like your hand was never cut at all. Thanks, Orihime said as they giggled for a few seconds. I feel like we're forgetting something. There was a pause before they remembered they were supposed to be fighting. After a quick shot of realization, they jumped back and in return to their respective fighting stances. Your power is impressive, Isane said. Time for me to reveal mine. Run, Run Itigumo, she called out, making her sword create two smaller blades from the base at a 45-degree angle. With her new blade, Isani charged at Orihime again by disappearing in a burst of Shunpo, relying on speed to throw off the barrier maiden. Satin cushion, she called out, erecting her barrier to her back and having Tsubaki attack the lieutenant. The small barrier circled the tall medic, looking for a chance to attack or to create an opening for Hime. Either way was fine with him. He took a chance and charged through her guard and passing between the two of the blades while Hime did the same. Tsubaki at her stomach and Orihime punching her chest. Isami staggered and coughed painfully as the air was forced from her body. Sorry about this, but I need to find Ichigo, Orihime said, raising her hand. Tsubaki, Koten-san-shun, she called out, noticing her arm was bleeding again. She then realized that Tsubaki was moving very sluggishly all of a sudden. That's my Sanpakuto, Itugaman's ability, Isane said, catching her breath. Anything caught in the field of my three blades becomes numb. You won't know if your life is in danger after a touch or cut of my blade. She spoke in a serious tone. It's really useful if you run out of anesthesia for a field surgery. Plus, it can reduce fevers and swelling with its cold aura, she said happily and proud. Whoa, that sounds really useful, Orihime said, genuinely impressed while she healed herself and Tsubaki. She saw the lieutenant tearing up before hugging her. Thank you so much, Isani cried out. I'm a poor fighter, so I rely on being faster than my opponents, so I just don't have any skills for it. Though I'm one of the weaker lieutenants, all I can really do is heal people. Orihime felt sympathy for the silver-haired girl and returned her hug. There, Orihime cooed, gently rocking the girl back and forth. I really don't like fighting either. And Tsubaki is my only real attack power, she said before remembering something she was working on. Though there is this one move I've been experimenting with. You can tell everyone you pushed me to a last resort, she offered the lieutenant. Really? Isane asked, feeling hopeful that she'd get a more positive image with her colleagues. Yep, watch. Orihime let go of the girl and stepped back. She took a few breaths to center her focus and create the barrier she wanted. Shiten Koshin, as she recited, making four of the spirits reconfigure into her normal shield, with Tsubaki in the center. My shield that reflects all attacks back to my opponent. She reached out her hand to grab something as spirits began to shift in their places. The 3 points converged on each other while the top two tilted upwards to form a rough hilt, while the center point extended to form a large blade shape. Koten Koshin, the twin strike blade. She wrapped her hand around the hilt, pushing and swung her blade a few times to get used to it. It's a work in progress. She chirped and swung at Hisane, who managed to block, and then both were shot back by the unexpected recoil. Definitely needs more work, Orihime groaned. Yeah, Izane agreed as they got up for the next bout when a voice stopped them. Stop! It was stern but motherly. They looked behind them to see a serene and beautiful woman in the captain's hurry with a long braid in front of her walking towards them. Captain Unahana, Isane whispered out as the two fighters dropped their stances. Guess this is it for our fight, Orihime said, just before Unahana started to correct their stances for their respective fighting styles. Much better, Unahana said with a smile. Now continue, she said, surprising them. When they looked at her with the unasked question, she responded, You two started this fight, you finish it. I'll step in if it starts to get dangerous, she said, while other members of her squad went about gathering the people Orihime knocked unconscious. Just think of this as an impromptu swordsmanship lesson on Ona-san. You can pay us back by helping at my division barracks. So go ahead with your fight. But Ona-san, Orihime started. Go ahead with your fight, the captain interrupted, more sternly, making the two fighters cuddle with each other with fearful eyes, nodding as they trembled in front of their frightful captain. Uryu and versus Mayuri. All right, need to focus. Uryu analyzing his situation. One captain and a lieutenant. One of us obviously strong, but there was nothing from the lieutenant at all. Start out slow, get a feel for his abilities, he thought, already firing several shots from multiple directions. Mayuri managed to dodge each one and joining on top of a wall while examining while examining the damage. Very impressive, he said to the focused archer. That was hearing Kyaku, wasn't it? Impressive that a youth like you has mastered it to such a level. Flattered, but I always felt kind of slow in comparison to my cousin, Udryu said, staying cryptic about his and Ichigo's relation. But I was always the better shot. He disappeared again, firing from a distance and surprising the Quincy expert with the speed and power of the arrow. Lectured again, Miyuri heard from above. Before Uryu unleashed a barrage of arrows down on him, he landed and waited, sure that the captain managed to evade. Gathering Reishi at the shoulder for a great number of arrows fired in rapid success. Mayuri said, looking closely at Uryu's left arm. Such fine conditioning, too. A perfect specimen of the Quincy. He sneered at the archer. You've almost sparked my interest in your kind again. Uryu responded by quickly dissolving his sword and striking Mayuri twice, first with an elbow to his face and a palm strike to the center of his chest, pushing him back quite a bit. Those attacks are a lot stronger than his muscle structures would suggest. Mayuri thought, reeling back in stronger than his muscle structure would suggest. Mayuri thought, reeling back in pain. As interesting as your displays are, I would rather find that girl and begin researching her instead. Claw out. Researching instead. Claw out. Claw out. Ashi Soji Jizo. He called while unsheathing his blade, making it turn into a strange trident sword with a creepy golden baby face, praying at the gourd. Try not to die. I might want to dissect you later, Mayuri said, silently charging at him with Lieutenant suddenly running into the archer, letting the mad scientist slash them both. Damn it, I let my guard down. He berated himself as they fell, wincing from the pain of the blade cutting through his flesh. How can he do this to his own subordinates? He wondered, remembering the grunts from earlier that almost died before Orihime saved them. Why did she do this willingly? The lieutenant staggered before Mayuri punched her. Did I say to not let go even if your arm was cut off? He growled in fury. No matter, you served your purpose. He's beaten now. Uryu glared at the mad scientist and tried to move his finger, only to find a complete lack of mobility in all of his limbs. Tranquilizers? Is that the effect of his Sanpakto? Uryu tried to figure out what was happening. Maybe not. I can still feel the ground, so it might just be that my motor functions are disabled. Good thing I have just the counter. They heard the girl coughing and struggling to breathe. You must have some iron will, though, Mayuri said. That's a pretty substantial cut, but you haven't cried out once. Not the first time you've been wounded by a blade. Uryu briefly flashed back to how his blue vein was trained. Yeah, I've been cut plenty of times, Uryu spoke in defiance. Training is not meant to be gentle. Interesting, he said as he raised his blade, and Uryu prepared himself until Mayuri got fed up. Be quiet, Nemu. Forgive me, Master Mayuri, she gasped helplessly. Please give me some of the medicine. My lungs seem to be damaged, she said, freezing the captain in a sense of indignant rage. He stomped over to deliver his vengeful fury when Uryu chipped in. That might not be completely unreasonable. That was a deep cut. Mayuri shifted his glare back to the downed Quincy. Aspiring, Doctor, Uryu said, explaining his concern. Do you think me an idiot? The captain roared, grabbing his lieutenant by her shihakusho and slamming her against the wall. Do you think a body I created will fail from this level of injury? He demanded, surprising Uryu. Wait, you made her? He asked, drawing upon that limited knowledge of Shinigami technology he had. Mixing Gigai and Gikton? Correct, Mayuri said, surprised by the Quincy's quick deduction. Mixing these techniques, I created this girl, my daughter, Nemo Kurotsuchi. He threw her to the ground, and I shall treat her however I please. The hell you will, Uryu growled, getting ready to attack the moment the captain dropped his guard. Is this the pride of the Quincy crap your kind prattle on about? The captain asked, annoyed. It's the same every time. During all my experiments and studying of all Quincy, by the honor of the Quincy, I won't do this. By the pride of the Quincy, I won't allow that. It was so annoying until I finally killed those worthless subjects. Uryu was frozen, wondering how many of his kind suffered or how many innocent lives this monster must have tortured. Getting viable specimen was always such a pain, bribing the soul reapers that were watching the remaining Quincy to let them die, then recover the soul forms for experimentation. He dug out a small pitcher and tossed it to Uriel. The last worthless test subject I had kept screaming the names of his students or grandchildren. Everything else was mute to Uriel in that moment. On that picture was his grandfather's mutilated body. The man before him was the one responsible for his grandfather's death. He glanced at the Sandre glove, thought of murdering this man beyond being the man being the sole thought in his head. He wanted to rip off the glove, gain the unparalleled power of the let's it still, and reduce this man to ash. He nearly ripped it off when something deep in his mind rang out. Why do you fight, Uryu? He heard his father's words echoing in his mind, and he froze. Ichigo is trying to become stronger, to face a terrible monster, one that will destroy everything. That is his reason to get stronger. What is yours? The words continued to ring, making him hesitate. That's right, he recalled. I'm doing this to help Ichigo. I promised not to do anything foolish. The fog of rage and hate was slowly clearing, letting him think rationally again. You're still looking out for me, even when you're not here, he smiled, devising a plan on crushing the man. He laughed. This is the result of your research, he said through his chuckles. Urahara could have made twice the discoveries with a fourth of the damage. He began laughing hysterically, fueled by Mayuri's rage-contorted face, knowing the history of the two. You're more of a butcher than a scientist, he said, watching the madman get closer, because a real scientist would be ready for anything regarding his field regarding his field of expertise. He glowered before flashing in front of the captain and grabbing him by the throat, slamming him into a wall. What the? How? Maduru questioned as the Quincy defied his Sanpakto's ability. He then noticed the thousands of spirit threads wrapping around them both and the boy's glowing, bulging veins. Ran, Ranso, Ranso Tengai, and he steadily and Reishi through his veins to increase his strength. He analyzed while pinned to the wall, marveling at the reveal of information he could study in spite of the danger he was in. Pride of the Quincy. Don't make me laugh, Uryu growled, using his mastery of the rare Quincy skill to immobilize his enemy. I don't give a damn about that pride and honor. What good was any of it if it nearly made an entire race go extinct? I only fight for what I believe in. He then brought out one of the Sele Schneiders on his waist and stabbed the man through the gut. Make no mistake, I want to kill you. He stared into Mayuri's eyes with cold hate. You murdered my grandfather, all because of some failing research instead of proving something by making the Quincy a valuable ally to the Soul Reapers, like we once offered. He brought up his black Quincy cross. Urahara made this. It lets me create bows and arrows that can purify hollows like a Shinigami Sanpakto. Something you never thought to try. He created a small hand-sized bow and shot off the captain's leg. The air was filled with the sadist screams of pain. I could pick any number of methods to kill you, but that wouldn't do any good. He took hold of Ashisogi's Jizu and impaled Mayuri with his own blade. I can feel another captain nearby. You can beg them for help, he said before Mayuri began to melt. How shameful indeed. The disemboweled voice of Mayuri spoke out. To think I disregarded the possibility of the Quincy evolving. Though you've insulted me so much, I can't help but want to relish in studying your corpse when the other captains kill you. Uryu glared at the retreating slime. You'll be lucky if you face me again in battle, Kurotsuchi, but pray my cousin never finds you or what you did, Uryu warned. Ichigo is far stronger than I am. Ichigo Kurosaki, Mayuri spoke in surprise. He's supposed to be descended from Soul Reapers. He is, on his father's side. The only sound left was the demented and elated laughter of the deranged man, relishing what experiments were already coming to mind. Freaking nutjob, Uryu grunted out before collapsing, being caught in someone's arms. That is interesting to hear, Ishida-san, Unohana said, gently lowering the boy to the ground. But more so impressive that you didn't kill him when you had the chance, she said, already beginning treatment on the down Quincy. Why is that? It wouldn't have done any good, he said, Seeing no point in lying to the woman that was healing him, he didn't have it in him to fight anyone at the moment. It wouldn't bring back my grandfather or the Quincy that died, and it would have made life that much more difficult for Ichigo and his mission. And that his mission is? She asked cautiously, but Uryu already fell asleep. She smiled gently at the young archer. Lieutenant Kuritsuchi, would you help? She asked the artificial Shinigami whom she already healed. Yes, Captain, she said simply, grateful to the Quincy for some reason. End of chapter 22.